All right, what's going on, everybody? We are going to go ahead and get started right away. So we'll start the same way we did yesterday by showing the board. So again, we're going to go with our pillar prep. We're going to do soft tissue work, specifically focusing on the hips, back, and then the lats, just to make sure that we're going to have good shoulder movement. We'll go into our mobility moves, and then we'll follow that up with our stability. After that, we're going to get a little bit more dynamic with our movement prep, where we do the world's greatest, followed by some curtsy lunges. And then we'll go through our marching and skipping progression. And after that, that's when we're going to start hitting a little bit more of that specific movement prep towards our plyometric session. So we will go with pogos, both linear and lateral, because today's plyometric session is going to work in both directions. And then we'll go our lateral bounds, where we're doing sticks and continuous. Once we get to our plyometric session, we will be starting with plyometric loading, both from a double and single leg emphasis, taking that into box jumps, where we're going to do all three types: linear, lateral, and 90-degree turns. And then we will go into our non-counter movement, counter movement, depth drop, and depth jumps. And then finally our hurdles to broad jump, both a linear and a lateral or change of direction emphasis. So with that being said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Brett start with that foam rolling. So Brett, go ahead and start with your hamstrings here. Big thing as we're going through is, if you find points that are tight and tender, stick on them for at least 20 to 30 seconds. Additionally, because we have multiple muscles that make up the hamstring complex, we need to make sure that we're rolling obliquely. We're getting inside and outside of the back of the leg. Brett, breathe. Once he's done with his hamstrings, he's going to work onto his glutes. He can use either that 5-inch diameter ball or just hop up onto the foam roller. Okay.
Yeah, if you're at home, you don't have to foam roller.
Yep. Just make sure if you do hit a spot where it's like that sharp blinding pain, that we're moving off of there. There are some nerves that run through that backside, so we want to make sure we're not putting any undue stress on that spot. So what you can see Brett doing is he is working in a circular motion to start. And he needs to make sure to breathe. And then what he can do is start going back and forth and up and down. So multiple reasons why we foam roll. A big reason why we like to do it here is body awareness and getting some blood flow into those superficial layers of the tissue. Sensory input can also be something that can be a benefit of foam rolling. So now that Brett's done with his glutes, I'm going to have him work up his back. Big thing when we're going through rolling our back is I always want to make sure our abdominals are braced. I'm never going to want Brett just to fall over the foam roller and put excessive extension on his back, whether it's his lumbar, his thoracic, or his cervical. So you can see Brett starting low, and he actually has a little bit of that turn. So he's getting down towards his QL as well. That's that muscle that will sit right on top of your hip crest. Now he's starting to work his way up into his mid-back. Brett, what you can do here as well is throw in some extensions. So hands on the neck, just make sure we're not pulling on our neck as we're going through here. Working his way up right on top of his shoulder blades towards his cervical spine. And then Brett, since you're already on your back, go ahead and roll your lats as well. So best way to do this, stick that down arm out to the side. And again, this is one of those moves where we're just hunting for those tender spots. Yeah, this one you can pretty much just sit on. Additionally, what I can have Brett do is try to find end range through his shoulder. So Brett, try to raise your hand off the ground, put your thumb up towards the ceiling. Now go ahead and try to raise just a little bit. Not happening? Not happening? Okay. All right, go ahead and switch to that other side.
I like what you were talking about, why we're doing two-point. Body stuff for plyometric.
Yep. So when we're using our arms in our plyometrics, we need to make sure that we have adequate thoracic extension and also have the ability for our shoulder to move freely. If we know that we have decreased shoulder mobility, we may want to spend a little bit of extra time on this prep stage. So now that Brett's done with his foam rolling, we're going to go ahead and go into our mobility, starting with our 90-90 transition. So if you were here as we went through the acceleration mechanics, what Brett was doing, or what I was doing, where we were just holding in that position, and you'll see that Brett likes to rotate to start. After about 10-15 seconds of just holding in place, what I'm going to have Brett do is switch to the other side first, and then we'll start to go through those transitions. Brett, when you get there, we're going to just go one set of 10 reps, okay? No, let's just go 10 total, so 5 each side. Now, Brett's going to go through without using his hands. Big thing to emphasize here is if you start to see his low back round out as he's going through those transitions, go ahead and use your hands on the ground. So, big benefit of what we're getting here, we're getting both internal and external rotation on both hips as we go through. As you are transitioning, another cue that we can throw out there is I want you rotating through your heels. So dig your heels into the ground as you're going through. Brett, what you're going to go into next is that sideline windmill. So let me set this back up. I'm going to give you a foam roller on your top leg. Just hand right in front. Okay, so big thing here is I want to first lock Brett's lumbar spine into place. How we're going to do that is I'm going to bring this top leg up to a 90-degree angle through, and then I'm going to straighten out that back leg while pulling your toes up towards your shin. Brett's going to be laying on the side. If you have someone working out, make sure that they are stacked as you're going through. Now, go ahead and raise that hand out. Both hands are going to be on top. First thing, Brett, I want you to do is breathe out and push that top hand away before you trace the largest circle. I want you to think that this hand is coming out as far as you possibly can. And now we're getting good thoracic rotation, but we're also getting... All right. We might have some connection issues every once in a while, but we're going to try to work through all of that. So again, what we're looking at here is good thoracic rotation and then tracing the largest circle we can with that arm. Brett, why don't you go ahead and switch to the other side. Again, making sure that that top leg is at that 90-degree angle so we can lock that lumbar or low back into place. So exhale to start. Then we're just tracing that biggest circle we can. Straighten out this back leg a little bit forward as well. Cover up that belly. How many more you got here? 2? All right, let's go ahead and work into our stability. So this is going to be that last part of our pillar prep. We're going to be in a quadruped position, which just means we're going to be on all fours as we're going through. Big cues here, when he's in that quadruped position, is hands are going to be underneath his shoulders and his knees are going to be underneath his hips. He's going to go ahead and raise up. You'll also see this called the bear crawl position. Now imagine that he's got a cup of water on the small of his back. Brett is going to go through 20 total shoulder taps, making sure that he is breathing, keeping that belly button pulled up towards his spine. Slow it down a little bit. It's my turn. Have Brett sweat. Okay, let's go 3 more each side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Last here. 6. All right. Let's go into our movement prep, okay? So I'm going to give you a 30-second break before we go through. I'll go back to the board just to remind everybody what we're working on here. There's going to be 5 components of movement prep. We're going to start with our world's greatest. We're going to go 1 set through 5 on each side. So Brett, you ready to go?
Yeah.
All right, let me go ahead and set this up. Are you going to walk it out, or are you just going to stay in place? Let's just stay in place here, okay? All right, so big steps here is I'm going to have Brett lunge out to start. Now he's going to drop down on both hands, maybe inside his feet. Big thing that I want to make sure is that back knee is locked out. From there, take your right shoulder or your right hand, place it on your left shoulder, drop that elbow to the ground, reach up towards the sky, eyes following hand. I want to turn down a little bit. You should see a straight line go from the ground up towards the ceiling. From there, take that hand, place it outside the foot, pump the brakes, and kick and replace. So that's going to be 1 rep. We're going to go 5 on each side here. Don't rush here. There's a lot of benefits that we can get through the world's greatest. You're going to see a lot of rotation. You're going to see a lot of deep hip flexion. Yeah, that's the biggest thing that we'll see, guys, is that back leg will be bent a lot. I want to make sure that I'm keeping that tissue on stretch as we're going through. Eyes follow hands. Show that palm forward, Brett. Pumping the brakes. Good straight line there. Once we get to our curtsies, Brad, I'm gonna have you walk those out, okay? Yep, walk it out. Joe, now that you turn that fan off, it is very hot in here. Good straight line. Let's go 1 more each side, Brett. Grazie, Joe. Okay, what we're gonna do now is get a little bit more dynamic with our curtsy lunges. Brett, why don't you go ahead and just get into that curtsy position first so we can talk about some points. Big thing here is, although his hips are doing some rotation, I wanna make sure that his shoulders are staying squared up with me. Imagine that you got flashlights on both of your shoulders. You want those lights shining forward. We are gonna go 1 set of 5 on each side here. You can alternate, you can do all 1 side first. Doesn't really matter, pick your poison. And you're gonna see that Brett's front foot is always facing straight forward. Good, sink into those hips. All right, from there, we are gonna go into our marching and skipping progression. This is something that we're gonna do almost every single time that we have someone come in and work out, so we're gonna do it when we're doing these IG workouts as well. So Brett, I'm gonna have you march first. Let's go linear to start, 10 yards. Big thing here is going cheek to cheek with the arms, taking it nice and slow that first way down, working on that cross body mechanics, and striking right underneath the body. All right, Brett, let's go into our lateral march. We'll switch at the 5-yard line. Big thing here, everything needs to stay squared up as we go. There you go, Brett. And what I'm looking for is that back knee is getting the same height as that front knee. And again, we'll switch at the 5, okay? If you're doing this at home, go ahead and go 10 yards on each side. Let's go ahead and go back. All right, and then we'll just go right into our linear march here, our linear skip, and we'll just go 8 skips, okay? All right, so Brett's gonna just ramp it up a little bit, working on being a little bit more springy as he goes through, striking right underneath his body, putting some force into the ground, taking it 10 yards. We're just gonna go 1 set here. All right, now when we go to our laterals, Brett, I'm gonna have you go 10 yards on each side, okay? Big thing to focus on here as we go through our skip progression. Yeah. The big thing to focus on here is I want him pushing off with that backside leg. So in this instance, it's going to be his left side. Push, staying nice and tall. If I get to the side of Brett, I should see nice posture, good straight line, like I got a pole running through head to heel. Bring it on back. Okay, go ahead, take a break for a second. All right, what we're gonna get into next will be our pogos. So we're working on tissue stiffness. You'll see some slight bend in the knees. Brett, first time down linear for 5 yards, I'm gonna have you go hands on your hips. Second time through, I'll have you go with some arm integration. All right, you ready? Get nice and springy. What we're thinking of is short ground contact time. We're not super focused on getting high off the ground. I just want to develop some rhythm. Brett, you can go ahead and turn it around. 5 yards. Overachiever. Overachiever. All right, arm integration this time. Good there. Now we're gonna go lateral. So I'll have you go one way for 5 yards, one way back. You can choose whether you're going hands on your hips or arm integration, okay? Yep. Don't let those feet get too far outside shoulder width as we're going lateral. All right, bring it on back. Okay, take a break. One of the reasons that we do pogos as well is just to work on that Achilles tendon complex, start emphasizing that stretch shortening cycle, getting a little bit more neural component into it. Brett, you got anything to add in there, or are you just gonna catch your breath? Okay, good. All right, finally, Brett, what we're gonna go into is our lateral bounds. You may have heard of these as skaters. We are gonna start with a stick emphasis, so we're gonna go 1 set on each side, 5 to each side for a total of 10. I'm not looking for you to hold it for 3 seconds. Just make sure that you have control of that position, okay? No, let's go back and forth here, yep. Soft landings. He's not trying to punch the ground with his feet. Should be nice and quiet as he comes through. There's 7. Last here, Brett. All right, go ahead and take a break. We like to do a lot of stability before we go into our continuous movement. If I can't be stable, I am not going to be able to generate force off of that position. So now we're going to go into our continuous. We're just going to go 1 set of 10. That's 5 to each side here, okay? Good, and you'll see Brett's reaching down across that hip, so he's getting some hip internal rotation, integrating his upper body as he's going through. Okay, all right, Brett, go ahead, take a break. So now we're gonna get into our actual plyometrics. The way that we have designed it today is going from the lowest intensity, and let me flip this. We're going from the lowest intensity to our highest intensity. For purposes of this video, we kept the sets and reps low. But with that being said, plyometrics is not something I do hundreds and hundreds of reps of in a workout, especially if we're looking for power generation. Plyo loadings, what that is just working on landing mechanics. So, Brett, you ready to go soon?
Yes, sir.
You got anything to add in before we go? Breathing? All right, let me set this up. We will start with our plyo loading. We are going to do that single and double as we go through. Neither of our moms are on. What's new? All right, big thing I want to work on here is arm integration as we're going through. So Brett, how the head you go, reach up nice and tall, get on the balls of your feet, and then we're just going to drop to that floor. That's imagine someone's pulling the rug out from underneath your feet. Yeah, we can as well. So when Brett's in his base position, the big thing that I'm looking for is he solid and is he stable? If I'm looking at the feet, I want to make sure that I'm pushing through the ball of the foot, outside ball of the foot, so directly across, and then through his heel. You can think a lot of times like the foot is like a tripod. An easy way to work on this with a partner is, Brett, go ahead and get to that position. I'm just going to walk around and try to push him in different directions as I go through. Anything to add there?
No, just making sure that chest is up. It's just that athletic position that you play sports. And I know what that feeling is. It's that ready position. Feet, right outside the shoulders there, ready to go in any direction.
Yep. Okay. So let's go ahead and go through our plyo loading. Right, what I'm going to have to do is reach up nice and tall, balls on your feet. Imagine I'm just pulling that rug down from go all doubles. First, hold this one. So as I go through, when he's in that position, he should still be stable. Good. Last one here. All right, let's go into our single leg. So he's still going to start breath with 2, but now I'm going to have him land 1. Mechanics with the upper body are going to remain the same. Let's alternate feet here as we go through. We're going to go 4 each. If I'm watching from the front, what I'm going to be looking for is to make sure that Brett's knees are not caving in. Good, and you'll see that Brett's being really quick, really violent with those hands as he's throwing them back into his pockets. Okay, let's go one more each here. All right, take a break.
So yeah, I think the big thing is the reasoning we're doing that is to get people used to loading their legs. A lot of people, when they're doing like a squat jump or something, if they're not thinking of it, they're going down super deep, almost too deep. You want to think about putting force into the ground so it'll come back up. So going down as fast as you can, just like if you're stretching a rubber band, pull it back quick and let it go. It's going to give you more power on the upside.
Okay. Next, he's struggling. He's struggling. All right, next what we're going to go into is our box jumps. We'll go through our linear lateral and then our 90-degree rotational. Reason why we're using a box to start is if I am jumping, and how high is that box here? 18 inches. If I'm able to jump 18 inches into the air and land on a box versus the ground, I'm taking away that 18 inches of extra depth and extra force that I would be going through my body once I land. So you'll see us use box jumps a lot in a regressed version.
Yeah, we're using them to reduce that force. So a lot of times, like early stages of athletes coming in here, or young athletes or injured athletes, we're going to do box jumps first. We'll do the plyo loading and the box jumps, so teach them how to form and bend those knees. Then we're doing, again, like you said, reduced landing force in the box. So a lot of times people see a box and they get scared, they think it's an advanced exercise. To me, that's one of the most regressed exercises. And as long as you're not, jumping as high as you possibly can, which I think has its own issues.
Yep, hip flexion does not equal more force development into the ground. That's one of my pet peeves. But if you don't have a box at home, use a chair, but make sure it's weighted down. Make sure it's not going to collapse when you land on it. A step. Again, we're not so concerned with the height of the box, especially with our at-home series. So don't make that like an end-all be-all that you have to hit a certain height. We are not focused on that. So Brett, what we are going to start with here is we are going to start with our linear, and we're going to go 1 set of 4. I still want you using that same arm mechanics as you're going through, nice and tall. And then big thing here is we are not attacking the box with our feet. I want them landing nice and softly. Land all the way on the box. Yep. That brings up a good point too. Land on the box, all of your foot. Do not land, halfway on. Also, don't jump off the box. That's kind of negating the point of why we're doing these box jumps, okay? So just step off. If you're using something that's super, super high, go ahead and grab another one, a baby step, so you can walk down. All right, next we're gonna go into our lateral. What I'm gonna have Brett do, just for the sake of this video, is we're gonna go 2 on each side, okay? Good, and you're gonna see those same mechanics. Big thing here is when you land, I want you in that base of support. All right, let's flip it to the other. Good, center yourself. All right, take a break. Finally, we're gonna go into our 90-degree turns, Brett. Again, we're gonna do 2 on each side. So he is gonna start in that lateral position, and in midair, he is going to turn to face that opposite direction. I would say at least 60 seconds, especially if I'm getting rather intense. I'm not trying to fatigue Brett with plyos, right? Like I want him to be putting maximal intent into almost every single rep. And that's why we keep our sets and reps super low, because it's not about getting someone tired, it's about making sure that we're keeping the body in correct positions. You have anything to add there?
I was just saying, like, the last couple sets of the workout should be just as powerful as the first couple. So if you're getting to a point where you're fatigued, you're winded, and your power is reducing, you're not really getting the point of this workout. We're trying to improve power here and improve speed.
Yep. Yeah, so, yeah, Brett, I see what you're doing there. All right, so Brett is going to turn midair as he's going through, and it's good. We're still landing straight on the box. Go ahead and hit one more on this side. Okay, take 20 seconds right here. I'm just gonna flip angles. Again, I just wanna make sure that Brett is still landing in that base of support when he's at the top. He's not landing with his feet too close together or too wide apart. Good there. Final here. All right, let's take a break. Okay, what we are going to be going into next is our non-counter movement jumps. What we're doing here is taking away that stretch shortening cycle. And Brett, did you want to use a box for this?
I like it.
Okay, we're gonna go with a box. Very simply, you could use a stool, a chair to sit down. It's just a little easier to maintain the correct position in a non-counter movement jump when you actually have something to sit on. So we'll go here in a couple seconds.
Yeah, the point of these, I'm gonna have people leaning forward, hands on the hips. I don't want you to get any kind of swing into it. So basically we're trying to go into a jump without getting any stretch in the muscle. Before, when I was talking about going down with force, having a good stretch and coming back out, now we're taking away that whole force aspect and having to reduce the force from your muscles. So if you're leaning forward in a forward position, go straight from there.
Yep, and just to remind people, we're going vertical here. We're not going into a broad jump. All right, Brett, you ready to go? Good, nice landing. Let me switch over to the front. Now, if you're doing this at home, what I want you to do is 2 sets of 4. I'm just gonna have Brett go through 1 set of 4. You're welcome, I'm being kind today. Wait, I want one more here. Don't let your heels click together when you're at the top. Yeah, you're not Dorothy. Yeah, you're not Dorothy, so don't click your heels. There you go, good. All right, take a break. Oh, my mom just joined. All right, so what we're gonna go into next is counter movement jump. So you can get rid of the box here. Now, let's say Brett theoretically could jump that 18 inches and match the height of the box. Now we're taking away that landing on the box, so he's going to have more force absorption through his body. So what that means is just more stress on the tissue. If you're doing these at home, go ahead and go through 2 sets of 4. Make sure that we're giving adequate rest here. Another thing I want to talk about is arm swing here. I'll see a lot of people throw their hands down like Iron Man when they're going through counter movement jumps. So, like, yeah, yes. So can you go through a couple of those? Yes. It feels wrong. Yeah, you're not Iron Man, you don't have thrusters on your hands, so don't jump like that. You want your arm swing pulling you up. Explode, yep. So again, if we go back to our pillar prep, why we rolled out our spine and our shoulders and our lats, is I wanna make sure that Brett is able to move nice and quick with his upper extremities as he's going through, okay? So Brett, we're just gonna go 1 set of 4. Give yourself like a 5-second pause in between each rep here, okay? Land with those hands back in your hip pockets. There you go, stick it. Stick. All right, final one here. Okay. One thing I would have liked Brett to do a little bit better is land with his hands in his hip pockets instead of out in front of him. Now, Brett brought up a good point earlier, if we're a field sport athlete, I probably am not going to want my hands back there. I'm going to want them out in front just so I could change directions a little bit quicker. But when we're solely working through our plyometrics, let's go ahead and keep that form nice and crisp. All right, going back to the box, grabbing a chair, grabbing something. We are going to go into depth drops first, and then we will follow those up with depth jumps. Brett, you want to say anything about the depth drops?
So for these, now the higher the box, the more intense this exercise is going to be. So if you're new to something like this, I would probably just stick to the depth drops in the first round of exercises where we're sticking the landing, not do the jumps yet, and even go with a shorter box.
Okay.
High box, more force.
Yep. So, for instance, if you're just starting these, go ahead and start with a 12-inch box.
So,
yeah.
When you're, let's say I can jump 20 inches or whatever, and I'm using an 18-inch box, I'm not really getting anything out of this, right? So use a box that's higher than you want to go. Does that make sense? Because if you can jump 20 inches and using a depth jump up an 18-inch box, well, I kind of need the jump that I just did. It's going to be more force than this anyways. We're not really so
Yep.
Get a box that's higher than you.
Yep, that brings up a good point. All right, Brett, what I'm going to have you do is we're going to go through both here. So I'm going to have you do 2 sets of 3, okay? It's going to be like Brett's just walking the plank. Stick that landing. Now, we're not punching to the ground with our feet. We're making sure that we're landing nice and soft. Weight is evenly distributed throughout those feet. You're going to see that his knees are flared out and his feet are underneath his hips. So he's still in that base of support position. Take a break. We'll go again in 30 seconds. So what we've been doing through our plyometrics, just to remind you, is we've been increasing the intensity. We started with our landing mechanics or our plyo loading. We went into our box jumps from a linear, lateral, and a 90-degree emphasis. Then we went into our non-counter movement where we were starting sitting on the box. You can sit on a chair at home, followed by that counter movement jump. And then now we're going through one more set of our depth drops for 3 reps here, okay? Yep, same thing. Take a break. Next move, we are going to go depth drop. We're just going to add in that jump, so depth jumps. So Brett is going to hit the ground and then rapidly change his direction into a vertical jump. We are going to go 2 sets of 3 here, Brett.
Feet came together.
Yeah, quit clicking your heels. You are not Dorothy. That was better. Nice and quick off the ground. Touch and go. Up. Good. Take a break. We'll go again in about 20 seconds. And again, if this is your first time doing plyometrics, by no means do you need to go through all of the progressions that we have laid out. Honestly, if you are just starting plyometrics, I would probably cut it after the non-counter movements or after the box jumps. All right. Let's hit that next set, 3 reps. Stick the landing on that jump, that second jump. When you land, just stick it and hold it for just a little bit longer, okay? Make sure you have ownership of that position. Good there. All right, give us a second. We are gonna set up our hurdles so we can go through our last series of plyometrics here. Joe, if you want to talk to the camera, feel free. All right, let's go 3 out in front. Nobody wants to look at this. All right. For our final move, we have hurdles here. What I'm going to have Brett do is go through a linear hurdle jump into a broad jump. Key here, if you don't have hurdles, you don't really need them. I just want those jumps to be low. I'm not looking for him to be super, super springy and get up to 24 inches in between each one of these hurdles. I want quick ground contact as he's going through. out into that broad jump. Make sure we're sticking it at that last point. Brett, let's go through 3 more here. Stick. I know, I'm getting too close. Or maybe you're just jumping too far. Stick. Okay, take a break. We'll go 1 more set there, okay? And if you don't have hurdles, don't feel like you need them. We are just putting them there for more of a marker than anything for Brett to realize that, hey, I just want him going straight over the top of those. I'm not looking for him to get as high as he can in between each one. It doesn't need to be 3 hurdles either. It can be 4, it can be 2. I probably wouldn't do 10, but we're looking for just quick ground contact time in between each one. So Brett, let's go through 4 more here, okay? Good, and you're gonna see when Brett lands, he's still in that base of support position with his knees out, sitting down into his hips. Walking it back, give yourself time. All right, this is a bad one. Yep. You'll see a lot of people strike heel first as well. Yeah, and then their feet will just slide out from underneath them. So make sure you're getting adequate air on that broad jump. All right, take a break. Let's go ahead and set up. So Brett, just move those hurdles into a lateral emphasis. So finally, what we are going to show is a little bit more of a change of direction. Give yourself enough space in between, so spread them out just a little bit wider. He is gonna go lateral hurdle hops into a linear broad jump. So let me get off to the side here and make sure we can get enough in there. All right, quick ground contact time using arm integration as you go through. Explode out into that broad jump. It was all that pre-workout you took before. All right, go another one this direction, then we'll switch it up. All right, change direction here. Okay. Gave yourself a lot of room there to start. Good. Big thing that I want to emphasize too is as Brett's going through his linear hops into that broad jump, everything is staying squared up with me. Again, if we have those flashlights on our shoulders and hips and toes, I want to make sure that those lights are all shining towards my direction. You got 1 more set in you? All right, let's do it. Let's go 2 on each side, okay? Thanks, Brett. You got anything to say?
We're doing some change of direction workout. Change of direction workout. Monday, 12:30 is going to be Instagram Live. I'm going to take Ryan through some stuff. So I need to torture him. Come join.
It'll be a blast. I mean, even if you're just watching these in a sadistic way, Brett and I are just basically making each other sweaty for 30 minutes. So feel free to join as you go through. So I think
just so everybody can see the workout again, if you weren't there at the beginning. A lot of people are asking when it's Joe's turn.
I think Joe should do it in his jeans.
Here where the fly is again. All right, hop in there, Joe. Let's see one. In the jeans and Sperry's.
Could be worse. Could be worse.
Thanks for joining us.